Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 208, Lysis 206, D to E. Socrates has promised to demonstrate to Hippothales how to talk to one's lust object without actually chasing them away, but rather attracting them, and Hippothales agrees to help, and he comes up with a very intricate plan whereby Socrates will be able to talk to Lysis. Hippothales suggests that Socrates go into the palaestra, the wrestling school, with Ctesippus, Hippothales' friend, and sit down and start talking, and this on its own might attract Lysis. On the other hand, if it doesn't attract Lysis, he has another plan that Ctesippus should call over his cousin Menexenos, who is the best friend of Lysis, and then, of course, Lysis will come. So either Lysis will be attracted by adults having a conversation, or he will be attracted by his best friend being with the two adults. What Hippothales hasn't noticed is that he has given up all pretensions to attracting Lysis to himself, and he's virtually given Socrates a free hand with Lysis. If Socrates is really going to demonstrate how to talk to a lust object, Hippothales should be worried, because Lysis, if Socrates is as good as he seems to be at the art of lust, Socrates will attract Lysis to himself. This is not the case, but Hippothales himself should have thought of this. So how did Socrates arrive at this invitation to talk to Lysis? We remember that he himself says that he was walking directly from the academy to Lyceum for no particular reason, but we know that this meant he would be passing the palaestra, which he knew, because his friend owns the place, he knew there would be a celebration that day because it was the Hermaia, and he knew that there would be some older boys wishing to talk to younger boys, because on the Hermaia the different age groups can mix. So he knew that he would be meeting certain people there. And we may suppose, because this is a drama, it's a philosophical drama, this isn't reality, we may suppose that Plato's Socrates knew exactly who would be outside, and this would include Ctesippus and Hippothales, and he would have known that Hippothales is lusting after Lysis, and he would have known that Lysis would be in the palaestra. In other words, Socrates has set up this conversation with Lysis from the outset. From the very beginning of the dialogue, he knew where this was going. This is very unrealistic and far-fetched, but this is a drama. We have to stress this all the time. This is a philosophical drama, and Socrates represents something extreme. He is representing a particular paradigma. If Socrates is representing the dialectician, as he usually does in at least the early dialogues, we may suppose that as a dialectician he is a few steps ahead of other people in a conversation, and it isn't too much of a stretch of the imagination to make him a few steps ahead of even a conversation itself. This ability to set up a conversation can be seen in some other dialogues, most particularly politeia, in the Western tradition, republic. There are still many questions which could be asked. For example, why does Socrates want to talk to Lysis? Is it for the benefit of Lysis? Is it for the benefit of Hippothales? Is it for the benefit of anybody else listening to the conversation? These are questions we should hold in mind, but we should not answer until we have read the entire dialogue. For now, we may appreciate the way in which Socrates manipulates people to do what he wants by making it look as though he is doing what they want. Hippothales wants him to demonstrate how to talk to Lysis, and Socrates generously accepts. Tauta intego chrei poien. These things, I said, it is necessary to do. These things are the plan of action Hippothales has outlined. Kai hama labonton Ctesippon prosea esten palaestran, hoid alloi hysteroi hemon esan. And at the same time, I took Ctesippus and entered the palaestra. The others came after us. It's interesting that Socrates describes going in with Ctesippus as if he took Ctesippus, as if Ctesippus himself has no agency. Hippothales makes Ctesippus part of the plan, and Socrates follows the plan. Ctesippus, of course, could have refused, but he doesn't. This is the same Ctesippus who, just a little while ago, was complaining about Hippothales and all his poems and songs, but he's actually quite a traditionally good friend. He cares about Hippothales, and on the one hand he can joke about him, but he is also willing to help. We need to remember that the help here is to improve the way Hippothales talks to a lust object. So Ctesippus may be considered a friend who is an enabler. Considering that Hippothales said that all of the friends of his outside had lust objects inside, it's interesting that Ctesippus himself doesn't protest that he wants time with his lust object. Also, the other people who come in follow them. They don't go looking for their lust objects. And this tends to throw some suspicion on Hippothales' claim that they all had lust objects in the palaestra. Hippothales may just be projecting. We've already seen in this dialogue that Hippothales assumes that Socrates will be attracted by the same things that he is attracted by. He entices Socrates to enter the palaestra earlier on by saying that there are some handsome young boys in there. We see the same sort of projection at the beginning of Politeia, when Polemarchus attempts to interest Socrates in coming to his house by saying there are handsome youths there, and then there will be conversation, and at night there will be a ceremony on horseback. Polemarchus in that dialogue represents the type of person who is attracted to any passing pleasure. He anticipates all of these coming pleasures and assumes that these will entice Socrates to stay in Piraeus and come to his house. Eselthontes de catelabomen autothi tethukotas tetus paidas kai taperita hiereas hedontie de pepoemena, astragalidzontas de kai kekos memenus hapantas. Having entered, we immediately grasped that the children had already sacrificed, and the things to do with the ritual had already been done. The children playing knucklebones and being all dressed up. Socrates refers to the children as paides, which is correct. The people he's just come in with, the older boys, they are the neaniskoi, and now the age groups can mingle. Hoimen un polloi ente aule epaidzon exo. Hoidetines tu apodute riu en gonia ertiadzon atragalois pampolois ec formis continon proi rumenoi. Well then, many were playing outside in the courtyard, but some were playing a game with knucklebones, very many knucklebones, taking them out of certain baskets, in the corner of the dressing room. Tutus de periestasan alloi theoruntes. Standing around these were others watching them. The children were taking knucklebones out of baskets, and this was so that no one would know how many knucklebones were being taken out, and then they would be thrown, and people would have to guess whether the number was odd or even. This fascinating game surely doesn't warrant a crowd of people watching the boys, and we may suspect that some of the audience were already the neaniskoi, the older boys who were looking at the younger boys. Socrates specifies that some of the children were playing inside, while the others were playing outside, and that's where the audience was watching the children. I say they were outside the inner building. They are in the courtyard, the area where the wrestling ground is. We should take a moment to appreciate how Socrates grasps everything in a moment. He says that it was immediate. He grasped immediately where all these children were. The fact that some children were playing while others were watching. But children were not the only people watching. We will see that next time. Socrates doesn't say that the older boys who came in with him left him to go and watch the children, because they didn't. We will see that next time.